The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital flickered overhead as Maya Sullivan sat rigid in the cold plastic chair, her hands twisted together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Across the worn wooden desk, Dr. Patricia Chun removed her glasses with a slowness that made Maya's heart clench. "I'm sorry, Maya," Dr. Chun said, and those 3 words carried the weight of a death sentence. "Lily's echocardiogram from this morning shows significant deterioration. The tricuspid valve regurgitation has progressed to severe. We can't wait any longer." Maya's throat closed. She managed to whisper, "How long?" 2 weeks. 3 at the absolute maximum. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle but firm, the voice of someone who had delivered this kind of news too many times. After that, her heart simply won't be able to pump efficiently enough to sustain her organs. The surgery isn't optional anymore, Maya. It's the only chance she has. Through the office window, Maya could see into the pediatric ward where her 5-year-old daughter lay sleeping, her tiny chest rising and falling with effort, connected to monitors that beeped a rhythm Maya had memorized like a lullaby. Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, the one with the missing ear, was clutched in her small arms. The total cost, Maya heard herself ask, though she already knew the answer would destroy her. Dr. Chin slid a paper across the desk. The numbers blurred through Maya's tears. $247,000. Insurance would cover $197,000. The gap, $50,000. $50,000. It might as well have been 50 million. We've applied for every assistance program, Dr. Chen continued. Medical debt forgiveness, children's hospital funds, even a GoFundMe that some of the nurses started. But Maya, fundraising takes time, and time is the one thing we don't have. Do you have any family? Anyone who could? No. The word came out harder than Maya intended. No family. No husband. He'd left the day they got Lily's diagnosis. Couldn't handle having a defective daughter. No savings. Those had evaporated in the first year of medical bills. She'd already sold her wedding ring, her mother's jewelry, her car. She was down to a mattress on the floor of a studio apartment and the clothes on her back. I understand. Dr. Chin's expression said she'd seen this before too. Parents who had to choose between their child's life and financial ruin. Except there was never really a choice. The hospital has agreed to begin the procedure if you can provide at least half the outstanding balance as a deposit. That's $25,000. Can you? I'll get it. Maya stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the linoleum. 2 weeks. I'll get it. She didn't know how. She just knew she would die trying. On the bus ride from the hospital to the restaurant, Maya opened the calculator app on her cracked phone screen for the 100th time. Her salary at the Classy Spoon, $8.50 an hour plus tips. On a good week, she cleared maybe $400 after taxes. She had $1,247 in her checking account. Every penny she'd managed to save in the last 3 months. 2 weeks. 14 days. If she worked double shifts every single day, didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't pay rent, the math didn't work. It would never work. Maya pressed her forehead against the grimy bus window and let the tears come, silent and hot. Around her, other passengers stared at their phones, lost in their own worlds, unaware that the exhausted woman in the faded uniform was watching her daughter's life tick away like sand in an hourglass. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chun, her elderly neighbor who watched Lily when Maya worked. She asked for you 3 times today. Told her you're working hard for her. She said you're the bestest mama in the whole world. Maya's chest felt like it was caving in. She was the worst mother in the world. What kind of mother couldn't save her own child? The bus lurched to a stop at Main Street. Maya wiped her face with her sleeve, applied a practiced smile, and stepped out into the afternoon drizzle. The neon sign of the Classy Spoon buzzed and flickered. The second S had been broken for months, making it read, the Classy Spoon, which seemed more honest anyway. She had 4 hours until her shift ended. For hours to smile and serve and pretend her world wasn't ending. For hours until she had to go home and look her daughter in those trusting eyes and lie that everything would be okay. Maya pushed through the door, the little bell chiming her arrival, and prepared to perform the greatest acting role of her life, a woman who still had hope. The moment Maya stepped through the employee entrance, she knew it was going to be one of those days. Todd Geller stood in the center of the kitchen, his arms crossed over his pressed white shirt, his face the particular shade of red that meant someone was about to get screamed at. Unacceptable. His voice echoed off the stainless steel surfaces. Absolutely unacceptable. The target of his rage was Marcus, the 19-year-old dishwasher, who stood with his head down while Todd gestured wildly at a microscopic water spot on a wine glass. Do you know what this is, Marcus? This is mediocrity. This is the reason we don't have a Michelin star. This is why we're still serving truckers and factory workers instead of the elite of this city. Todd held the glass up to the light like it was evidence in a murder trial. When I took over as manager 6 months ago, I made a promise. This establishment would rise above its pedestrian roots. We would become refined, distinguished, exceptional. Maya slipped past them toward the lockers, hoping to change into her uniform unnoticed. No such luck. Sullivan. Todd's voice cracked like a whip. You're 12 minutes late. The bus was. I don't pay you to make excuses. I pay you to be punctual. He crossed the kitchen in 3 sharp strides, invading her personal space. This close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and overpowering that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. You look terrible. Have you been crying? No, sir. Just tired. Well, stop being tired. It's off-putting to the clientele. He looked her up and down with barely concealed disgust. Your uniform is wrinkled. Your hair is a mess. Do you have any idea what kind of impression this makes? We're trying to cultivate an atmosphere of sophistication here. Maya bit the inside of her cheek hard enough to taste blood. The Classy Spoon was a roadside diner with delusions of grandeur. The atmosphere of sophistication consisted of some fake plants, mismatched china Todd had bought at an estate sale, and a menu that described a regular burger as artisanal Angus beef on a brioche bun, while charging twice the price. I'll fix it, Maya said quietly. You'll do more than fix it. Table 6 left you a $5 tip on a $60 check because, and I quote, the server looked like she was about to cry into our soup. That's an 8.3% tip, Sullivan. 8.3%. Do you know what that does to our average? Actually, Maya wanted to say, it means I made $5 I desperately needed. But she knew better than to talk back to Todd. 3 months ago, another waitress, Sandra, who had worked there for 7 years, had questioned his decision to force the staff to share tips equally, meaning the hostess who stood at a podium for 4 hours got the same cut as the servers who ran themselves ragged. Sandra had been fired on the spot. There were rumors Todd was pocketing some of the pooled tips himself, but no one could prove it. And no one wanted to try, because jobs in this town were scarce, and the Classy Spoon, for all its pretensions, paid slightly better than the fast food chains. It won't happen again, Maya said, the words automatic. See that it doesn't. I've got a line of people eager to work here, people who would be grateful for this opportunity. Todd smoothed his hair, which was gelled within an inch of its life. Now get changed. The lunch rush is about to start, and I need this floor spotless. Spotless, Sullivan. I want to be able to see my reflection in it. We're expecting some important potential investors today, people who could help us get certified as a genuine fine dining establishment. I will not have them seeing scuff marks or crumbs or any other evidence of the rabble we usually serve. He turned on his heel and marched toward the dining room, barking orders at the busboy to rearrange the salt shakers so they all faced the same direction. Maya changed quickly in the cramped bathroom that doubled as a supply closet, splashing cold water on her face and trying to erase the evidence of her breakdown on the bus. In the mirror, she looked older than 26. The fluorescent lighting emphasized the dark circles under her eyes, the hollows in her cheeks from skipped meals, the premature lines of worry etched across her forehead. She pulled her dark hair into a tight bun, pinched her cheeks to bring some color to them, and practiced her smile. Hi. Welcome to the Classy Spoon. Can I start you off with something to drink? The smile didn't reach her eyes, but most customers wouldn't notice. When she emerged, the dining room was already filling up. The lunch crowd at the Classy Spoon was an odd mix. A few older couples who'd been coming for decades back when it was just Helen's Diner, some business people from the industrial park down the road grabbing a quick meal, and increasingly, the type of customer Todd was desperately courting, pretentious millennials who posted their artisanal grilled cheese on Instagram. Maya tied her apron and grabbed her order pad. The next 4 hours stretched before her like a marathon. Her feet already ached from standing in the hospital for 2 hours before her shift. The persistent throb in her lower back, a souvenir from when she'd slipped on a wet floor last month and Todd had refused to file a workers' comp claim, pulsed with each step. Maya, Todd's voice cut through the clatter of dishes. Table 4 needs water. Now. And when you're done with that, I need you to re-roll all the silverware. The napkins aren't aligned correctly. She grabbed the water pitcher and headed to table 4, where a middle-aged couple sat examining the menu with the seriousness of archaeologists decoding ancient texts. Good afternoon, Maya said, her voice bright and hollow. Can I start you both with something too? Her phone vibrated in her apron pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. The hospital. It had to be the hospital. Her hands shook so badly water slopped over the rim of the glass she was filling. Excuse me. The woman at table 4 said sharply. You're spilling. I'm so sorry. Maya set down the pitcher, grabbed a napkin, dabbed at the small puddle. Her phone kept buzzing. Sullivan. Todd appeared at her elbow like a malevolent genie. Are you seriously checking your phone on shift? No, I just. He grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Break room. Now. Maya followed him past the curious stares of customers, her heart hammering. Through the kitchen, past Marcus who wouldn't meet her eyes, into the cramped break room that smelled of old coffee and desperation. Todd slammed the door. Give me your phone. What? No, You're on my time. My dime. Whatever personal drama you're dealing with can wait until you're off the clock. He held out his hand expectantly. When Maya didn't move, his expression hardened. Give me the phone, or you're fired. Choose. With trembling fingers, Maya pulled the phone from her apron. 3 missed calls from St. Mary's Hospital. Her breath caught. Todd snatched it from her hand and powered it off. You'll get this back at the end of your shift. Maybe this will teach you about professional boundaries. He pocketed the phone, her only lifeline to Lily, and opened the door. Now get back to work. And if I see you dragging this attitude around my dining room, you can collect your final paycheck on the way out. Understood. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. As Todd walked away, Maya allowed herself exactly 5 seconds to lean against the wall and breathe. 5 seconds to imagine what the hospital might be calling about. 5 seconds of pure terror before she forced it down, plastered on her smile, and returned to the dining room. Just another day at the Classy Spoon, where dreams went to die slowly, 1 table at a time. By 1 o'clock, the sky outside had darkened to the color of a bruise. Maya could see it through the large windows that Todd insisted be kept perfectly streak-free at all times. Great purple clouds rolling in from the west, the kind that promised a deluge. The first drops began to fall just as the lunch rush hit its peak. Rain pattered against the windows, then drummed, then hammered. Within minutes, it was a downpour, the kind of November storm that turned the streets into rivers and made the old drainage systems in this part of town back up and flood. Inside the Classy Spoon, the atmosphere was humid and tense. Every table was full. The kitchen was slammed. The single espresso machine, Todd's pride and joy, imported from Italy at a cost that could have funded 3 months of Maya's rent, was hissing and sputtering under constant use. Maya moved through the chaos on autopilot. Table 7 needed refills. Table 3's order was wrong. They'd asked for no onions, and the kitchen had buried the burger in caramelized onions that Todd would certainly call artisanal. Table 9 was demanding to speak to the manager about the wait time, as if Todd could personally speed up the laws of thermodynamics. Her mind, though, was stuck in a loop. The hospital called 3 times. 3 times. That means something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Lily. Oh God, Lily. Excuse me, miss? An older gentleman at table 5 was waving his hand. We ordered 20 minutes ago. I'll check on that for you right away, sir. Maya's smile was becoming a grimace, a rictus of false cheer stretched across her face. In the kitchen, she found Marcus frantically washing dishes while the line cooks shouted orders back and forth. How long on table 5's chicken piccata? Piccata. The head cook, a perpetually stressed man named Raymond, didn't even look up from the grill. That's been sitting under the heat lamp for 10 minutes. Todd grabbed it to inspect the plating and hasn't brought it back. Of course he had. Maya grabbed the plate from under the heat lamp, still warm, barely, and was heading back to the dining room when Todd materialized in front of her. Where do you think you're going with that? Table 5. They've been waiting. Todd took the plate from her hands, examined it with the intensity of a jeweler appraising a diamond. The capers are distributed asymmetrically. This is unacceptable. It's been sitting there for... I don't care if it's been sitting there for an hour. We have standards, Sullivan. He grabbed a pair of tweezers, actual tweezers, which he kept in his shirt pocket for these exact moments, and began repositioning individual capers. See? Now the plate has visual balance. This is the difference between a diner and a restaurant. The customer has been waiting 20 minutes. Then they'll appreciate the artistry even more. Todd handed the plate back. And smile when you serve it. You look like you're attending a funeral. I might be, Maya thought, but didn't say. She delivered the plate to table 5, who barely glanced at the caper arrangement before digging in. The rain was coming down in sheets now. Through the windows, Main Street was barely visible. The storefronts across the way blurred into watercolor smudges. A crack of thunder made the lights flicker. And that's when Maya heard it. A sound that made several of the diners look up from their plates with expressions of distaste. The deep, growling rumble of a motorcycle engine. It was getting closer. Louder. Even through the storm, even through the walls of the restaurant, that sound cut through everything else. It wasn't the high-pitched whine of a sport bike or the smooth purr of a cruiser. This was something else entirely. The guttural roar of a machine built for power, not elegance. The engine cut off abruptly, leaving only the hammering of rain. Maya was refilling water glasses at table 8 when she noticed the shift in atmosphere. The customers near the windows had stopped eating, their forks suspended halfway to their mouths. They were staring at something outside. Jesus, one of them muttered. Look at the size of that guy. Todd noticed too. He'd been adjusting a painting on the wall, one of those generic prints of wine bottles and grapes. But now he was craning his neck to see through the window, standing on his tiptoes. What Maya saw made her pause mid-pour. Through the rain-streaked glass, illuminated by the gray afternoon light, was a figure that looked like it had stepped out of a different era entirely. A man, though calling him just a man felt insufficient, dismounting from a massive motorcycle that looked like it had survived several wars. He was huge, easily 6'4", with shoulders that seemed to span half the width of the bike. His beard was thick and wild, more gray than black, hanging down to his chest. He wore a leather jacket that was more patched than original material, and jeans that had seen better decades. But it was his boots that drew Maya's attention. They were enormous, heavy engineering boots, the kind that construction workers or miners wore. And they were absolutely caked in thick, red mud. It coated the boots from sole to calf, the kind of mud that spoke of recent rain and soft earth. The man stood in the downpour for a moment, seemingly unbothered by the deluge. He pulled off his helmet, a battered thing covered in stickers, and ran a hand through his wet, tangled hair. Even from this distance, Maya could see the weariness in his posture, the way his shoulders slumped as if carrying an invisible weight. Then he turned and walked toward the restaurant entrance. Every step he took made a squelching sound, even though they couldn't hear it through the glass. Every step left a boot print on the sidewalk that the rain immediately began to wash away, though not quickly enough to erase the evidence of his passage. Oh no! Todd breathed beside Maya, his voice strangled. Oh no, no, no. The bell above the door chimed. Elias, Grizzly, Vance stepped into the classy spoon, and with him came the smell of rain, leather, gasoline, and earth. Water dripped from his jacket, puddling on the floor. His presence filled the entranceway, made the tastefully decorated space suddenly seem small and cramped. But more than anything, with every step he took, those mud-caked boots left perfect, damning prints on Todd's pristine floor. Red mud, dark against the light tile. Impossible to miss. The entire restaurant fell silent. Forks stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the espresso machine seemed to quiet its hissing. Grizzly looked around the room with eyes that were a startling pale blue, made more striking by the deep tan of his weathered face. His gaze swept across the frozen diners, taking in their expensive casual wear, their carefully curated accessories, their expressions of poorly masked disgust. Then he spotted an empty booth by the window, and he began to walk toward it. Step, squelch, red print. Step, squelch, red print. Step, squelch, red print. Maya watched Todd's face cycle through several colors, white, red, purple, before settling on something that looked like it might precede a stroke. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. A vein throbbed visibly in his temple. Absolutely not, Todd hissed, and Maya realized he was talking to her. Do not, and I mean do not, seat that vagrant. We have standards here. We have a dress code. But Maya wasn't listening anymore, because she'd made the mistake of looking directly at Grizzly as he walked past, and what she saw in those pale blue eyes stopped her breath. She'd seen that look before. In the mirror. In the faces of other parents at the hospital. In the eyes of Dr. Chun when she had to deliver bad news. It was the look of someone who'd lost everything that mattered. The look of someone for whom the rain was just one more indignity in a world that had already taken too much. The look of someone who was so far past caring about things like muddy boots and fancy restaurants that the concepts might as well not exist. Grizzly reached the booth and stood there, dripping, waiting, patient as a mountain. And Maya made a choice that would change everything. The muddy boot prints stretched across Todd's immaculate floor like a trail of evidence at a crime scene. Each print was large, size 13 at least, and distinct in the light gray tile. The mud wasn't just any mud. It was the deep russet red of clay soil, the kind that clung with determination and stained everything it touched. The kind that spoke of digging, of earth recently disturbed, of standing in places where the ground gave way under your weight. Maya could see bits of grass embedded in the treads, fragments of leaves, small pebbles. This wasn't the casual dirt of someone who'd walked through a puddle. This was the mud of someone who'd been somewhere significant, somewhere the recent rain had turned the ground into thick, wet clay. In the booth by the window, Grizzly stood waiting. He hadn't sat down. His massive frame blocked out most of the gray afternoon light, creating a shadow that fell across the white tablecloth like a portent. Water continued to drip from his jacket, creating a small puddle around his feet that mixed with the red mud, spreading it further. Up close, he was even more imposing than he'd appeared through the window. His beard wasn't just gray. It was a mixture of iron and silver threaded through with stubborn streaks of black, wild and untamed. His face was deeply lined, weathered by sun and wind and time, with crow's feet that spoke of years squinting into distance. There was a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow, old and white. His hands, resting at his sides, were enormous, knuckles scarred, fingers thick as railroad spikes. But it was his eyes that held Maya transfixed. Pale blue, almost gray in certain lights, they carried a weight of sorrow so profound it was almost physical. She'd seen eyes like that in the oncology ward, in the faces of parents who'd lost the battle to save their children. Those weren't the eyes of a vagrant. Those weren't the eyes of someone looking for trouble. Those were the eyes of someone who'd already survived the worst thing imaginable and was still, somehow, putting one foot in front of the other. Absolutely not. Todd's voice shattered the silence like breaking glass. Every head in the restaurant turned. Sir, you need to leave. Now. Grizzly's gaze shifted slowly to Todd. He didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at the smaller man with an expression that might have been curiosity or might have been something darker. Todd took a step toward him, then thought better of it, and stopped just beyond arm's reach. Did you hear me? This is a respectable establishment. We have a dress code. And even if we didn't, you can't just track mud everywhere. Look what you've done to my floor. He gestured dramatically at the boot prints, his voice rising to a pitch that made several customers wince. That's imported Italian tile. Do you have any idea what it cost? Do you have any idea how long it takes to properly clean? Grizzly still didn't respond. He just stood there, water dripping, mud caking his boots, looking at Todd with those devastating pale eyes. I'm calling the police, Todd announced, pulling his phone from his pocket. This is trespassing. He's just wet from the rain, Maya heard herself say. The words came out before she could stop them, quiet but clear in the tense silence. Todd's head whipped around so fast his neck cracked audibly. What did you say? He's just wet. From the storm. He probably. Maya's throat felt dry. Every instinct screamed at her to be quiet, to keep her head down, to not make waves. But those eyes. God, those eyes. He probably just needs to dry off. Maybe some hot coffee. Sullivan, if you value your employment here, you will shut your mouth right now. Todd's face had gone from red to an alarming shade of purple. This person has contaminated my dining room. Look at this. He actually knelt down. Todd, who wouldn't deign to pick up a dropped napkin, got down on one knee in his pressed slacks and pointed at one of the boot prints. This is going to require professional cleaning. This is going to require the floor to be stripped and resealed. Do you know what that costs? I can clean it, Maya said softly. You can. Todd stood abruptly, brushed off his knee with sharp, angry movements. No, Sullivan. No. What you can do is escort this gentleman out of my restaurant before I have him forcibly removed. Maya looked at Grizzly. He was watching her now, those pale eyes curious. There was something in his expression, a question, maybe, or a test. What are you going to do? Those eyes seemed to ask. Who are you, really? She thought of Lily in the hospital bed, monitors beeping. She thought of the $50,000 gap that was impossible to bridge. She thought of Dr. Chen's gentle voice. 2 weeks. 3 at the absolute maximum. She thought of all the times she'd bitten her tongue, swallowed her dignity, let Todd humiliate her because she needed this job, needed every dollar, needed to survive. And she thought, what good is survival if it means becoming someone who throws a grieving stranger out into the rain? I said escort him out, Sullivan. Now, if you don't, you can consider this your last shift. You'll be doing this floor on your hands and knees as your final act as an employee of the Classy Spoon, and you won't be getting paid for it. The other customers were watching with the avid fascination of people witnessing a car crash. Some had their phones out, recording. One woman was whispering urgently to her companion, gesturing at Grizzly with barely concealed disgust. Maya looked down at the boot prints, at the red mud that Todd was so horrified by, and she realized something. That mud had been somewhere that mattered. That mud had a story. That mud was important. This wasn't just some biker who'd ridden through a construction site and couldn't be bothered to wipe his feet. This was a man who'd been to a place of significance, who'd stood in earth that meant something, who wore that mud like a badge of honor even if no one else could see it. Maya took a deep breath. Then she grabbed 2 menus from the hostess stand. Sir, she said, addressing Grizzly directly for the first time. This way, please. Sullivan. Todd's voice was strangled. The booth by the window has the best view, Maya continued, as if Todd hadn't spoken. And it's the farthest from the air conditioning vent, so you'll be warmer while you dry off. Grizzly's eyebrows rose slightly. The ghost of something, surprise, maybe, or respect, flickered across his weathered face. He gave a single, small nod. Are you out of your mind? Todd grabbed Maya's arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to hurt. I just told you. I'll clean the floor myself, Maya said, not looking at him. She couldn't look at him, or she'd lose her nerve. On my hands and knees if you want. But he's a customer, and he deserves to be served. He's not a customer. He walked through the door. That makes him a customer. Maya gently pulled her arm free and started walking toward the booth, toward Grizzly, whose pale eyes had gone soft around the edges, whose mouth had curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but was close. She could hear Todd sputtering behind her, could feel the eyes of every diner boring into her back, could practically taste her own terror at what she'd just done. She'd just guaranteed her own firing. She'd just destroyed the only source of income standing between Lily and. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, the only thing that mattered was getting this man with the broken eyes out of the rain and into a seat where he could be warm. Maya could feel Todd's rage radiating behind her like heat from a furnace as she led Grizzly to the corner booth. Each squelching step the big man took seemed to make Todd's breathing grow more ragged, more desperate. By the time they reached the table, the best spot in the house, with windows on 2 sides and plush burgundy vinyl seats, she could hear him practically hyperventilating. Please, have a seat, Maya said, setting down the menus. She grabbed a handful of napkins from the nearby serving station and laid them on the floor around the booth. I'll get these cleaned up shortly. Grizzly looked at the napkins, then at Maya, then slowly lowered himself into the booth. Even sitting, he was massive. His shoulders were so broad they nearly touched both sides of the backrest. When he placed his hands on the table, they dwarfed the salt and pepper shakers. Coffee? Maya asked, pulling out her order pad with hands that shook slightly. For the first time, Grizzly spoke. His voice was like gravel being crushed under a truck tire, deep and rough from years of shouting over motorcycle engines and wind. Black. Hot as you got it. Coming right up. Sullivan. Todd's shriek made several diners jump. He came storming across the dining room, no longer caring about decorum or his carefully cultivated image of refined sophistication. His face was the color of a ripe tomato, veins standing out on his forehead. What the hell do you think you're doing? Maya turned to face him, putting herself between Todd and Grizzly's table. Up close, she could see that Todd was actually trembling with rage. A small muscle in his jaw twitched erratically. "I'm taking a customer's order, sir," she said quietly. "A customer? A customer?" Todd's voice cracked on the second repetition. "That's not a customer. That's a... He gestured wildly at Grizzly, searching for words. "A vagrant. A derelict. He probably doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And even if he did, I wouldn't take his filthy money." In the booth, Grizzly shifted slightly. Maya caught a glimpse of his expression. Not anger, interestingly, but something closer to weary resignation, as if he'd heard all this before, as if this was just another performance he had to sit through. "He walked through the door," Maya said again. "That makes him a customer. You know what?" Todd's voice dropped to a hiss, which was somehow more frightening than his shouting. "I've had enough of your insubordination. You think you're special? You think you're irreplaceable? There are a dozen girls who'd kill for your job, girls who'd actually follow instructions." He jabbed a finger toward Grizzly without looking at him. "You have exactly 30 seconds to get this thing out of my restaurant, or you're fired. Not suspended. Not written up. Fired. As in collect your things, turn in your apron, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Do you understand me?" Maya's heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Fired. The word echoed in her head. No job meant no money. No money meant no surgery. No surgery meant... She couldn't finish the thought. 20 seconds, Todd said, pulling out his phone and ostentatiously opening the timer app. 19. 18. Maya looked at Grizzly. He was watching her intently now, those pale blue eyes sharp despite the weariness in them. There was something in his gaze, a question, or maybe a challenge. "What kind of person are you?" Those eyes seemed to ask. "When it costs you something, what do you choose?" 15. 14. From across the dining room, Maya could see the other customers watching. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed entertained, eager to see how this drama would play out. A few were definitely recording on their phones. 10. 9. 8. Maya thought of Lily's face when she'd visited that morning before the doctor's appointment. How she'd been trying to color, but kept stopping to catch her breath. How she'd dropped her crayon twice because her fingers were swelling from the fluid buildup. How she'd looked up at Maya with absolute trust and said, "You're gonna fix me, Mama. I know you will." 5. 4. 3. "I'll clean it," Maya heard herself say. "I'll clean the mud. On my hands and knees, like you said." But he stays. Todd's timer went off, a shrill, obnoxious beeping. He silenced it with a vicious jab of his finger. "Wrong answer." "He's grieving," Maya said suddenly, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Can't you see that? Look at his eyes. Look at his face. Someone died. Recently. That mud." She glanced down at the boot prints. "That's cemetery mud. That's the mud of someone who's been standing at a grave in the rain." The words hung in the air like smoke. Todd's mouth opened, then closed. For a moment, he looked uncertain. But only for a moment. "I don't care if he's grieving the Pope himself," Todd said, his voice hardening again. "My floor is ruined. My reputation is on the line. And you, Sullivan, you are fired. Effective immediately, Todd." It was the first time she'd used his first name without the Mr. in front of it. "Please. I need this job. I'll work extra shifts. I'll clean the whole restaurant. Should have thought of that before you decided to play social worker." Todd grabbed her arm again, started pulling her toward the back. "You can collect your things and get out. I want you gone in 5 minutes. Wait." The word was spoken quietly, but it cut through the tension like a knife. Grizzly had stood up from the booth. At his full height, he was truly intimidating, not because of any aggressive posture, but simply because of his sheer size. He had to be 6'5", maybe taller. His shoulders seemed to span the entire width of the booth. Todd stopped, but didn't let go of Maya's arm. "This doesn't concern you." "Sure it does." Grizzly took a step forward. Not threatening, exactly, but Todd instinctively stepped back, pulling Maya with him. "Lady's trying to do her job. Seems wrong to fire her for that." "Her job is to follow my instructions," Todd shot back, but his voice had lost some of its venom. He was keeping his distance from Grizzly, Maya noticed. For all his bluster, Todd wasn't stupid enough to get within arm's reach of someone who could probably bench press a small car. "Your instructions were to throw me out." Grizzly scratched his beard, considering. "Tell you what. I'll make you a deal. Let her serve me my coffee, let me dry off for maybe 20 minutes, and I'll pay for whatever it costs to clean the floor. Professional cleaning, stripping, resealing, whatever you need. Name your price. Todd's eyes narrowed with suspicion and avarice. Professional restoration of Italian tile runs about $5,000. Maya gasped. That was a lie. She'd heard Todd complaining to the owner that the whole floor had only cost $3,000 to install. Grizzly didn't even blink. Done. Plus the cost of the business we're losing while customers are disturbed by your presence, Todd added quickly, sensing an opportunity. Call it another $2,000. Fine. In cash. Right now. For the first time, Grizzly smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. It made him look dangerous, like a wolf showing its teeth. You want $7,000 in cash, right now, for the privilege of sitting in your fine establishment for 20 minutes? Todd lifted his chin. That's the price. Take it or leave it, and take your little champion here with you when you go. The dining room had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching now, not even pretending to eat. This was better than reality TV. Grizzly looked at Maya. She couldn't read his expression. It was somewhere between amused and contemplative. Then he looked back at Todd. I don't carry that much cash, he said simply. Todd's smile was triumphant. Then I guess we're done here. Sullivan, you're fired. Sir, you can. But I can transfer it. Grizzly pulled a phone from his pocket. Surprisingly new and expensive looking, Maya noticed. You take Venmo? PayPal? Direct bank transfer? The smile slipped from Todd's face. We don't. No? How about this then? Grizzly tucked the phone away and crossed his arms over his chest. I leave right now, no fuss. But I take my friend here with me. He nodded toward Maya. And we go directly to the health department, the labor board, and social media to discuss your business practices. How you treat employees. How you pull tips and skim off the top. How you fire a woman with a dying kid for showing basic human decency to a customer. Todd went very still. How did you? Thin walls in that kitchen, Grizzly said mildly. I've got good ears. Heard the whole conversation about the little girl who needs surgery. Heard you stealing this woman's phone. Heard a lot of interesting things. Maya felt something crack open in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. This stranger, this man she'd met 5 minutes ago, was defending her, fighting for her. When was the last time anyone had done that? You're bluffing, Todd said, but he didn't sound certain anymore. Try me. Grizzly's voice was soft, almost gentle. I got nothing but time and a grudge against bullies. We can make this real ugly, real fast. Or you can let the lady bring me my coffee. I'll drink it, dry off, and be gone in 20 minutes. Your choice. Todd's face cycled through several emotions: rage, calculation, fear, and finally grudging defeat. His grip on Maya's arm loosened. Fine, he spat. 20 minutes. But if you're here a second longer, I'm calling the cops for trespassing. And Sullivan. He turned to her, eyes narrow with malice. You're still fired. You just get to finish out this one table. Consider it your severance. He stormed off toward his office, his footsteps sharp and angry on the tile that he'd been willing to extort $7,000 to clean. Maya stood frozen, her mind reeling. Fired. She was fired. She'd lost the one thing keeping her and Lily afloat. Hey. Grizzly's gravelly voice pulled her back. You okay? She looked up at him, way up, given the height difference, and managed a shaky nod. I'll get your coffee. You don't have to. Yes, Maya said firmly. I do. It's my job. For the next 20 minutes, anyway. As she turned toward the kitchen, she heard Grizzly speak again, so quietly she almost missed it. Thank you. She paused, looked back. For what? For seeing me as a person. Those pale blue eyes were soft again, sad again. Not everyone does anymore. Maya's throat tightened. She nodded once, not trusting herself to speak, and headed for the coffee pot. Behind her, Grizzly settled back into the booth, muddy boots and all, and stared out at the rain that showed no signs of stopping. The coffee Maya poured was the expensive stuff, the blend Todd kept for his important investors, the beans he stored in a sealed container and rationed like gold. She didn't care anymore. What was he going to do? Fire her again? She brought it to Grizzly in one of the restaurant's best cups, real ceramic, not the chipped mugs the regular customers got, along with a small pitcher of cream and actual sugar cubes in a little bowl, not the paper packets. Here you go, sir, she said, setting the cup down carefully in front of him. Grizzly looked at the presentation, then at her, and something in his weathered face softened. You didn't have to do all this. Everyone deserves a good cup of coffee. Maya pulled out her order pad. Can I get you anything to eat? The pot roast is good today. It's been cooking since this morning. Or if you want something lighter, the vegetable soup is homemade. Just the coffee is fine. Are you sure? It's no trouble. The truth was, she wanted to keep moving, keep busy. If she stopped, if she let herself think about what had just happened, about being fired, about Lily, about the impossibility of everything, she might break down right there in the middle of the dining room. Grizzly studied her for a long moment with those penetrating pale eyes. The pot roast sounds good. And maybe some bread if you got it. Coming right up. As Maya turned to go, she felt his gaze follow her. It wasn't creepy or predatory, just observant, thoughtful, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. In the kitchen, she found Raymond plating orders with his usual practiced efficiency. I need the pot roast, she told him, and a basket of bread. For the biker? Raymond kept his voice low, glancing toward the door. Heard what happened out there. That was brave, Maya. Stupid, but brave. Stupidity seems to be my specialty today. She grabbed the bread basket and started loading it with the rosemary rolls Raymond had baked that morning. 20 minutes, and I'm done here anyway. Todd's a bastard. You know that, right? You could probably fight the termination, wrongful dismissal, hostile work environment. With what lawyer? Maya arranged the rolls carefully, trying to keep her hands steady. With what money? Raymond didn't have an answer for that. He finished plating the pot roast, a generous portion with roasted carrots, mashed potatoes, and a rich brown gravy that smelled like heaven, and handed it to her. Make it count, he said quietly. Maya carried the food back out to Grizzly's table, where she found him still staring out the window at the rain. Up close, she could see more details about him. The deep lines around his eyes, the calluses on his hands that spoke of decades of manual labor, the way his leather jacket was patched and repatched in places, lovingly maintained but clearly ancient, and the mud on his boots. In the restaurant's lighting, she could see it wasn't just red clay. There were darker bits mixed in, the rich black soil of well-tended earth. Cemetery soil. She'd been right about that. Here you go, she said, setting down the plate. Is there anything else I can get you? Sit with me a minute, Grizzly said. Maya glanced toward Todd's office. The door was closed, but she could see his shadow moving back and forth behind the frosted glass. I probably shouldn't. You're already fired. What's he gonna do, fire you harder? Grizzly gestured to the seat across from him. Please. I'd like the company. Against her better judgment, Maya slid into the booth. This close, she could smell the rain on him, the leather of his jacket, something else, motor oil, maybe, and would smoke. It wasn't unpleasant. You got kids? He asked, cutting into the pot roast. Maya's throat tightened. A daughter. Lily. She's 5. 5's a good age. Old enough to have a personality, young enough to still think you hung the moon. He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. This is really good, by the way. Your chef knows what he's doing. I'll tell him you said so. Maya folded her hands on the table, trying not to fidget. Did you have children? The question seemed to hang in the air between them. Grizzly set down his fork, took a long sip of coffee. A daughter, he said finally. Caroline. She gave me a granddaughter, Emily. His voice roughened on the name. Emily was 6 when she passed. Leukemia. That was 3 years ago. I'm so sorry, Maya whispered. Caroline couldn't handle it. The grief, I mean. She's in a facility now. Hasn't spoken in 2 years. Grizzly picked up his fork again, but didn't eat. Just held it, staring at the pot roast like it held the secrets of the universe. So I guess I lost them both, really. Just on different timelines. Maya's eyes burned with tears. The mud on your boots. Emily's grave. Yeah. He finally took another bite. Her birthday was yesterday. She would have been 9. I go every year, stand there in the rain if that's what the weather gives me, and I tell her about my year. What I've seen. Where I've been. It's stupid, probably. It's not stupid, Maya said fiercely. It's not stupid at all. Grizzly looked at her, really looked at her, and something passed between them. A recognition, perhaps. The understanding of one broken person seeing another. Your daughter, he said. The one who needs surgery. What's wrong? Maya hadn't meant to tell him. She'd meant to keep it professional, keep her distance. But something about this man, this grieving, mud-covered giant who defended her against Todd, made the words spill out. Congenital heart defect. Tricuspid valve regurgitation. She needs surgery in the next 2 weeks, or her voice cracked, or she won't make it to Christmas. How much? 50,000. After insurance. I have about 1,200 saved. Maya laughed, and it came out bitter. I was going to work extra shifts, but apparently that plan just went up in smoke. That bastard. Grizzly's jaw tightened. He knew you needed the job. He knew about your daughter. To be fair, I did defy his direct order. To be fair, his direct order was bullshit. Grizzly leaned back in the booth, his massive frame making the vinyl creak. You did the right thing. The right thing is going to leave my daughter without a mother who can afford to save her life. Maya swiped at her eyes angrily. Sorry, I shouldn't be dumping this on you. You're going through your own. Her phone, which Todd had confiscated, started ringing in his office. They could both hear it, muffled but insistent. 3 rings. 4. 5. That'll be the hospital, Maya said dully. They've been trying to call all day. I don't even know what they want. Could be something simple. Could be. She couldn't finish the sentence. Grizzly's expression darkened. He took your phone? Said I couldn't have personal calls during work hours. But you're not working anymore. You're fired. He stood abruptly, his height forcing Maya to crane her neck to look up at him. Wait here. Before she could protest, he was striding toward Todd's office, his muddy boots leaving fresh prints on the floor. He didn't knock, just pushed open the door and walked in like he owned the place. Maya could hear Todd's squawk of outrage, could hear Grizzly's deep rumble in response, though she couldn't make out the words. 30 seconds later, Grizzly emerged with Maya's phone in his hand. He walked back to the booth and handed it to her. 3 missed calls from St. Mary's Hospital. You should probably call them back. Maya stared at the phone like it might explode. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip it. Hey. Grizzly's voice was gentle. Whatever it is, you can handle it. You're strong enough to stand up to that asshole in there. He jerked his thumb toward Todd's office. You're strong enough for this. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She dialed the hospital, pressed the phone to her ear. It rang once. Twice. St. Mary's Hospital. How may I direct your call? This is Maya Sullivan. I had some missed calls. Oh, Miss Sullivan. Yes, hold please for Dr. Chun. The hold music was Mozart. Maya had learned to hate Mozart. Maya, Dr. Chin's voice came on the line, and Maya's heart plummeted. She sounded serious. I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. I know. I'm sorry my phone was. It doesn't matter. What's wrong? Is it Lily? Did something happen? Nothing happened. Lily's stable. But we've had a development. Dr. Chin paused. There's been a cancellation in the surgical schedule. Dr. Rodriguez had a patient pull out. Family couldn't get the funds together in time. He's offered us the slot if we can take it. Maya's heart was pounding. When? Monday morning. For days from now. Another pause. But Maya, we need the deposit by end of business tomorrow. Friday. The full $25,000. If we don't have it, the slot goes to the next family on the waiting list. For days. $25,000 by tomorrow. It might as well have been $1 billion. I understand, Maya heard herself say. Thank you for calling, Dr. Chun. I'm sorry, Maya. I wish I had better news. If there's any way, I'll figure it out. Somehow. Thank you. Maya ended the call and set the phone down on the table very carefully, as if it might shatter. She could feel Grizzly watching her. Bad news? He asked quietly. They have a slot. Monday. But they need half the money by tomorrow, or they give it to someone else. Maya stared at the phone. So, not bad news exactly. Just impossible news. She stood up abruptly. I should let you finish your meal in peace. I've already burdened you with enough of my. Sit down, Grizzly said, and there was something in his voice that made her obey without thinking. He was looking at her with an intensity that was almost frightening. This deposit. Tomorrow. End of business. That's what you need. It doesn't matter what I need. I don't have it. I won't have it. There's no magical solution here. Maya felt something breaking inside her. All the walls she'd built to keep functioning starting to crumble. I've sold everything. I've worked every shift I could get. I've applied for every assistance program. And it's still not enough. It's never enough. So thank you for the sympathy, really, but there's nothing to be done except. Her voice cracked. She pressed her hands over her mouth, trying to hold back the sob that wanted to escape. Except watch my baby die, she finished in a whisper. Grizzly didn't say anything. He just reached across the table and placed one of his enormous, scarred hands over both of hers. The gesture was surprisingly gentle. They sat like that for a long moment, two strangers bound by grief and rain in muddy boots, while the coffee grew cold and Todd watched from his office with narrowed, suspicious eyes. Grizzly finished his meal in silence while Maya collected herself, wiping her eyes with a napkin and taking deep, shuddering breaths. Around them, the lunch rush was finally ebbing. Customers were paying their bills and leaving, throwing curious glances at the odd pair in the corner booth, the massive, mud-covered biker and the devastated waitress. "What do I owe you?" Grizzly asked finally, pushing his empty plate away. Maya pulled out her order pad with mechanical precision, grateful for the familiar routine. "Pot roast is $16, coffee is $4, breadbasket is $3. That's $23. He pulled out his wallet, a worn leather thing held together with duct tape, and extracted a crisp $100 bill. "Keep the change. I can't accept that. It's too much. It's a tip. For excellent service." His pale blue eyes were serious, and for seeing past the mud. Maya took the bill with trembling fingers. $77. It was more money than she usually made in tips during an entire shift. "Thank you," she whispered. Grizzly stood, the booth creaking with relief as his weight left it. He stretched, his leather jacket riding up to reveal a faded t-shirt underneath. "You're a good person, Maya Sullivan. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I'm not sure luck has much to do with anything in our lives right now. Maybe not, but kindness does. You showed me kindness when you didn't have to, when it cost you something real." He glanced toward Todd's office, where the manager was still lurking. "That matters. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't." He started toward the door, those heavy boots squelching with each step, leaving a final trail of red mud across the floor. Maya watched him go, this strange, sad giant who'd wandered into her life for 20 minutes and somehow made her feel less alone. At the door he paused, turned back. "Your daughter," he said. "What's her favorite color?" The question was so unexpected that Maya almost laughed. "Purple." "What?" Grizzly nodded, as if this confirmed something important. Then he pushed through the door and out into the rain, which had finally started to ease into a drizzle. Maya stood in the middle of the dining room, holding the $100 bill, watching through the window as he mounted his massive motorcycle. He didn't put his helmet on right away. Instead, he sat there for a moment, his bearded face turned up toward the gray sky, letting the rain fall on him. Then he kick-started the bike, the engine roaring to life with that same deep, powerful rumble, and rode away down Main Street. Within seconds, he disappeared around the corner, leaving nothing but the fading sound of his engine and the muddy boot prints on Todd's precious floor. "Well," Todd's voice made Maya jump. She hadn't heard him approach. That was quite the performance. He was standing with his arms crossed, his expression a mixture of disgust and calculation. Behind him, Raymond had emerged from the kitchen, along with Marcus and two of the other waitresses. They all watched Todd warily. "I'm going to need you to clean those prints before you leave," Todd said, gesturing at the floor. "Every single one. On your hands and knees, like we discussed." "Todd, come on," Raymond protested. "She's been through enough." She defied a direct order. "She cost us customers. Look around. Half the tables left because they were disturbed by that creature she insisted on serving. She's lucky I'm letting her clean up her mess instead of charging her for the damages." Maya looked down at the boot prints. There were dozens of them, crisscrossing the dining room like a map of Grizzly's journey through the space. They'd already started to dry, the red clay turning darker, harder to remove. "I'll need cleaning supplies," she said quietly. "In the janitor's closet. You know where it is." Todd's smile was cruel. "And Maya, take your time. Do it right. Because this is the last thing you'll ever do for the classy spoon, and I want it to be memorable." He walked away, back to his office, leaving Maya standing alone in the middle of the restaurant. Raymond approached, keeping his voice low. "I can help. This is bullshit." "No." Maya shook her head. "You'll just get yourself fired too. I appreciate it, but at least let me get you the supplies." "Okay, thanks." While Raymond fetched the bucket and scrub brush, Maya took off her apron and hung it on the hook by the kitchen. Underneath, her uniform was wrinkled and stained with coffee and gravy from the lunch rush. Her feet ached. Her back ached. Everything ached. But none of it compared to the ache in her chest when she thought about calling Dr. Chin tomorrow to tell her they couldn't take the surgical slot. That Lily would have to wait, would have to hope for another cancellation, would have to make it through more days, weeks, maybe months with her failing heart. If she made it at all. Raymond returned with the cleaning supplies. Maya took them without comment, knelt down on the floor in front of the first muddy print, and began to scrub. The clay had dried into the grout between the tiles, making it stubborn and difficult to remove. Maya worked at it with the brush, her knees protesting against the hard floor. Around her, the few remaining customers tried not to stare, but she could feel their eyes on her. The humiliated waitress, scrubbing floors on her hands and knees while her manager watched from his office window. She scrubbed the first print, then the second, then the third. Each one felt like an accusation. Each one reminded her of Grizzly's pale, sad eyes. Of his granddaughter who'd died at 6. Of his daughter who'd stopped speaking. Of all the grief in the world that couldn't be fixed by kindness or coffee or standing at graves in the rain. By the time she reached the trail of prints leading to Grizzly's booth, her knees were raw and her hands were cramping. Sweat ran down her back despite the air conditioning. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not where Todd could see. The booth. The best seat in the house. Where Grizzly had sat and eaten his pot roast and told her about Emily. Where he'd asked about Lily's favorite color for reasons Maya couldn't begin to understand. Maya crawled to the booth, reached for the next muddy print, and froze. There was something on the seat. Something white and rectangular, partially hidden beneath the edge of the table. With shaking hands, Maya reached for it. It was a napkin, one of the cloth napkins from the table setting. And underneath it was. Maya's fingers touched the edge of what felt like paper, but thicker, more substantial. She lifted the napkin carefully, as if whatever lay beneath it might evaporate if she moved too quickly. It was a check. Not a personal check, but a cashier's check from First National Bank, the kind that was as good as cash, guaranteed by the bank itself. The kind that couldn't bounce. The kind that meant real, actual money. Maya's eyes found the amount line, and the world seemed to tilt sideways. $100,000. $100,000. Her hands started shaking so violently that she nearly dropped it. She set it down on the booth seat, stared at it, picked it up again to make sure it was real. The paper felt real. The bank's watermark was visible when she held it up to the light. The signature was there, official and legally binding. $100,000. On top of the check was the napkin, and on the napkin, in surprisingly elegant handwriting for such large, rough hands, was a message. For Lily's surgery. For her future. For her purple dreams. In memory of Emily Rose Vance, who loved butterflies and never got to see 9. Some mud is sacred. Some kindness is rare. Thank you for recognizing both. E. Vance. At the bottom, in smaller letters, P.S. Don't let the bastard see this until you're out the door. Maya's legs simply gave out. She didn't decide to kneel. Her body just collapsed, her knees hitting the floor with a crack she barely felt. The check slipped from her fingers, fluttering down onto the dried mud she'd been scrubbing. She pressed both hands over her mouth, trying to contain the sound that wanted to escape. $100,000. Enough for the surgery. Enough for the deposit. Enough for follow-up care. Enough for the medications Lily would need afterward. Enough for rent and food while Maya took time off to care for her daughter. Enough for everything. Enough to save her baby's life. The sound that finally came out was somewhere between a laugh and a sob, a strangled noise of pure, overwhelming emotion. Her vision swam with tears. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she was holding. Sullivan. Todd's voice cut through her shock. What are you doing? Why did you stop? His footsteps approached. Maya's instinct was to hide the check, to protect it, but her hands wouldn't cooperate. She was frozen, kneeling in the mud and the cleaning solution, her whole body shaking. Todd came around the side of the booth and stopped dead. What the hell is that? Maya looked up at him through her tears and saw his expression change as he registered what she was holding. His eyes went wide, then narrow, then calculating. Is that? He snatched the check from her hands before she could react. Holy shit. Holy shit. $100,000. It's mine, Maya managed to choke out. He left it for me. For Lily's surgery. Give it back. Left it for you? On my table? In my restaurant. Todd held the check up to the light, examining it the same way Maya had. This was left on restaurant property. During business hours. That makes it. No. The word came out as a roar. Maya lunged to her feet, reaching for the check, but Todd danced back, holding it above his head like a child keeping a toy away from a smaller sibling. According to the Classy Spoons Employee Handbook, Section 12, Subsection B, all lost and found items of significant value must be turned over to management for a period of 30 days while we attempt to locate the rightful owner. I am the rightful owner. It has my daughter's name on it. Give it back. Maya's voice had risen to a shout. The few remaining customers turned to stare, their meals forgotten. Raymond emerged from the kitchen, took in the scene, and came running. Todd, what the hell? Call the police, Todd said, still backing away from Maya. This woman is attempting to steal property that was left in this establishment. It's not stealing if it was given to me. Maya felt something breaking inside her, all the frustration and fear and desperation of the past months crystallizing into pure rage. That man, the one you tried to throw out, he left it for me. For my daughter. You have no right. I have every right. This is my restaurant. Todd was edging toward his office now, the check clutched in his hand. You were fired, Sullivan. You're not even an employee anymore. This isn't yours. It was left on restaurant property, and restaurant property belongs to me. He was going to take it. He was actually going to take the one thing that could save Lily's life and claim it as his own. Maya felt her vision narrow to a tunnel. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat, in her temples, in her fingertips. She took a step toward Todd. Give me my daughter's surgery money, she said, her voice deadly calm now. Or I swear to God, Todd, I will burn this place to the ground with you in it. Are you threatening me? Todd's voice went high and panicky. Did everyone hear that? She threatened me. Raymond, call the cops. She's clearly unstable. The only one unstable here is you, Raymond shot back. He turned to Maya, his expression stricken. Maya, don't do anything crazy. We can fix this. We can. How? Maya turned to him, and she could feel the tears streaming down her face now, hot and angry. How do we fix this, Raymond? He's going to steal money meant for my dying daughter. He's going to take it, and there's nothing I can do because I don't have a lawyer. I don't have money for a lawyer. I don't have anything except that check, and he knows it. Actually, a deep, familiar voice said from the entrance, that's where you're wrong. Everyone turned. Grizzly stood in the doorway, dripping wet again, his massive frame blocking out the gray afternoon light. But he wasn't alone. Behind him were at least a dozen other bikers, all in leather, all looking like they'd ridden straight out of Maya's answer to a prayer she hadn't known she'd prayed. The lead biker, a woman with silver hair and more tattoos than skin visible, grinned at Todd's expression. Heard you might need some witnesses, she said. About a gift that was given. A check that belongs to someone specific. Grizzly's pale blue eyes found Todd, and there was nothing gentle in them now. That would be mine you're holding, he said quietly. I'd like it back, so I can give it to the person it was intended for. Todd had gone very, very pale. You can't just what? Another biker stepped forward, an older man with a beard nearly as impressive as Grizzly's. Can't just walk into a public establishment? Can't just witness a man trying to steal money meant for a sick kid? I'm not stealing. I'm following restaurant policy. Bullshit, the silver-haired woman said cheerfully. You want to call the cops? Let's call the cops. Let's have them take statements from all of us about what we saw and heard. About how you confiscated this woman's phone. About how you fired her for showing basic human decency. About how you're now trying to steal a check with someone else's name on it. More bikers filed in through the door. 5, 10, 15. The dining room was filling with leather and tattoos, and the smell of rain and motorcycles. The few remaining customers quickly threw cash on their tables and fled. Todd looked around at the sea of unfriendly faces and seemed to realize he was outmatched. This is harassment. This is intimidation. I'm calling. Give the lady her check, Grizzly said. It wasn't loud. Didn't need to be. The words carried weight and finality. Give it to her now, and we all walk away. Make this complicated, and we make it very complicated. For a long moment, Todd stood frozen, the check trembling in his hand. Maya could see the calculation in his eyes, the desperate search for a way out, a loophole, anything. Then the silver-haired woman pulled out her phone. Smile, asshole. This is going on every social media platform I can think of. Local manager steals surgery money from sick child. Should get some good traction, don't you think? That did it. Todd's face crumpled. He thrust the check at Maya like it was burning his hand. Take it, and get out. All of you. You're trespassing. We're leaving, Grizzly said. He walked over to Maya, who was still standing in shock. The check now clutched to her chest like a life preserver. Come on. You're done here. Maya looked down at the bucket and scrub brush, at the half-cleaned floor, at the muddy boot prints she'd been kneeling in. The floor, she started to say. Fuck the floor, Grizzly said gently. Let's get you out of here. Maya let Grizzly guide her out of the classy spoon, past Todd's sputtering protests, past Raymond's concerned expression, past the army of leather-clad bikers who parted to let them through like she was royalty. Her legs felt disconnected from her body, her mind still unable to fully process what had just happened. $100,000. She was holding $100,000. Outside, the rain had stopped completely, leaving the street washed clean and glistening. The bikers' motorcycles lined the curb like a gleaming metal wall, chrome and paint and fierce machinery. Maya counted at least 20 bikes, maybe more. Who are all these people? She asked Grizzly, her voice small. Asphalt Kings, he said. My club. Been riding with most of them for 30 years or more. He gestured to the silver-haired woman. That's Joanne, our president. The guy with the beard is Hank. We take care of our own. But I'm not. I just met you. You stood up for me, Grizzly said simply. That makes you one of ours, at least for today. Joanne approached, her boots clicking on the wet pavement. Up close, Maya could see she was probably in her late 50s, with laugh lines around her eyes and the kind of weathered beauty that spoke of decades lived on her own terms. You okay, honey? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. The check was still clutched in her hand, the paper growing damp from her sweaty palm. Good. Because that little weasel in there. Joanne jabbed a thumb toward the restaurant. He's probably on the phone with his lawyer right now, trying to figure out if there's any way he can come after you for that money. He can't, can he? Panic fluttered in Maya's chest. It's got Lily's name on it. Grizzly wrote, Mr. Vance wrote. Call me Grizzly. Everyone does. He pulled out his phone, started scrolling. And no, he can't. But we should make sure it's airtight. Hank, you still know that lawyer? The one who helped with your custody case. Jim Peterson. Yeah, he's good people. Hank was already dialing. Owes me a favor, too. I'll get him down here. Wait, I can't afford a lawyer, Maya started to say. You're not paying, Grizzly said. Consider it part of the gift. The gift. Maya looked down at the check again, at Grizzly's elegant handwriting on the napkin she'd somehow managed to stuff in her pocket. I don't understand. How can you just give away this much money? Who are you? Grizzly exchanged a glance with Joanne, who shrugged. Might as well tell her. She's going to find out anyway once the check clears. Find out what? Maya looked between them. Grizzly sighed, ran a hand through his wet hair. Come on. Let's get you somewhere dry, and I'll explain. They ended up at a coffee shop 2 blocks away, a little hole-in-the-wall place that looked nothing like the classy Spoon's pretensions. Maya sat in a worn booth while Grizzly ordered hot chocolate for her, coffee for himself, and several of the bikers positioned themselves strategically around the shop. Guarding her, she realized. They were actually guarding her. When Grizzly returned with the drinks, he slid into the booth across from her. The table was small enough that his knees bumped hers, and he had to angle his massive frame to fit in the space. My full name is Elias Vance, he began. My family owned Vance Mining Company. Started by my grandfather in 1952, grew into one of the largest independent mining operations in the state. We did coal, copper, some rare earth minerals. Maya wrapped her hands around the hot chocolate, grateful for the warmth. Owned. Past tense. Sold it. 6 months ago, right after Caroline, my daughter, went into the facility. His voice was matter of fact, but Maya could hear the pain underneath. Couldn't run the company anymore. Couldn't do anything except think about Emily and what I'd lost. So I sold it. Got a good price, too. More money than any one person should have. How much? The question slipped out before Maya could stop it. Grizzly's lips twitched. Enough that 100,000 is less than what I spend on motorcycle maintenance in a year. Maya's hot chocolate suddenly tasted like ash. You're a millionaire? A billionaire. Somewhere in between. Does it matter? I don't know. Why are you dressed like? She gestured helplessly at his muddy boots, his patched jacket. Because this is who I am. This is who I've always been, underneath the suits and the boardrooms. He took a sip of his coffee. When Caroline was a little girl, before she got married, before Emily, we used to go camping. Just the two of us. She loved it, sleeping under the stars, cooking over a fire. She said I was happiest when I was dirty and far from civilization. His expression softened with memory. After Emily died, after Caroline stopped talking, I realized I'd spent 30 years being someone I wasn't. Running a company, making money, all of it. None of it mattered. None of it brought Emily back. So I sold it, split most of the money between charities and Caroline's care facility, kept enough to live on. And I went back to who I used to be. Just me and my bike and the road. And the mud, Maya said quietly. And the mud. Grizzly looked down at his boots. Emily's buried in Resurrection Cemetery, out on Highway 12. The soil there is this red clay. It holds water like a sponge. Every year on her birthday, I go stand at her grave and I sink into that mud and I talk to her. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her about the world she's missing. He pulled a photograph from his wallet, slid it across the table. A little girl with dark curls and pale blue eyes. Grizzly's eyes, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. She wore a purple dress and had a butterfly painted on her cheek. She was beautiful, Maya whispered. She was everything. Grizzly took the photo back, studied it for a moment before returning it to his wallet. And that's why, when I saw you today, when I heard you defending me to that bastard Todd, when I learned about Lily, I knew what I had to do. But you don't know me. You don't know my daughter. We're strangers. Are we? Grizzly leaned back in the booth. You saw a grieving man with muddy boots, and you gave him dignity. You gave him coffee and a warm seat, and you didn't ask him to explain himself. That's not nothing, Maya. In a world full of people like Todd, that's everything. The door opened, and a man in his 60s entered, trim, professional, carrying a briefcase. Hank waved him over. That's Jim, Grizzly said. Best trust and estate lawyer in 3 counties. He's going to make sure that check is yours, legally and irrevocably. Make sure Todd or anyone else can't touch it. Jim Peterson approached their booth, his eyes sharp and assessing. Miss Sullivan? I'm Jim Peterson. I understand you've had quite a day. For the next hour, Maya sat in the coffee shop while Jim asked her questions, took notes, made phone calls. He photographed the check, photographed the napkin, recorded Grizzly's verbal statement about his intent. He got contact information for the hospital, for Dr. Chun, even for Todd at the Classy Spoon. This is airtight, he announced finally. The check was a gift, clearly documented with the donor's intent stated in writing. Mr. Vance was of sound mind, acting of his own free will, with no coercion. Miss Sullivan accepted the gift in good faith. There's no legal mechanism by which anyone can contest this. What about Todd? Maya asked. He's claiming it was left on restaurant property. Irrelevant. Items left specifically for an individual, with that individual's name on them, don't fall under lost and found statutes. It's like if someone mailed you a package at the restaurant. The restaurant doesn't own it just because it was delivered there. Jim smiled. Besides, I've dealt with Todd Geller before. He threatened to sue one of my clients over a disputed tip. He's all bluster, no substance. One letter from my office, and he'll back down. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. So it's really mine? The money is really mine. It's really yours. Jim stood, collecting his papers. I'll draft a formal letter of intent from Mr. Vance and file it with the county recorder's office, just to create an official record. But you can deposit that check tomorrow morning and use the funds immediately. In fact, I'd recommend you do exactly that. Get it into your account before anyone gets any other ideas. After Jim left, Maya sat staring at the check, at the impossible numbers, at the elegant handwriting that had changed her life in the space of 20 minutes. I don't know how to thank you, she said to Grizzly. I don't even know if there are words big enough. Don't thank me. Just save your daughter. Grizzly finished his coffee, set down the cup. And maybe, when she's older, when she's healthy and strong and living the life she's supposed to live, tell her about the muddy-booted biker who believed in kindness. I'll tell her you were an angel, Maya said. Not an angel, just a grandfather who couldn't save his own granddaughter, but maybe could save someone else's. He stood, his huge frame unfolding from the booth. The bank opens at 9 tomorrow morning. Be there at 8:45. Jim will meet you there to help with the deposit. You've thought of everything. I've had a lot of time to think. 3 years of writing and thinking and trying to figure out how to make anything matter again. He looked at her with those pale, sad eyes. You gave me that today, Maya. You reminded me that it can matter. That kindness matters. That standing up for what's right matters. He headed for the door, and Maya scrambled out of the booth to follow him. Outside, the Asphalt Kings were mounting their bikes, the evening air filling with the rumble of engines. Wait, Maya called. Will I see you again? Grizzly paused, one leg over his bike. Maybe. I move around a lot. But if you ever need anything, and I mean anything, Joanne knows how to reach me. He kick-started the engine, that deep, powerful roar that had started this whole impossible day. Take care of that little girl, Maya Sullivan. Teach her about purple dreams and butterflies and standing up for strangers with muddy boots. Then he was gone, roaring down the street with his club behind him, a river of chrome and leather and second chances flowing into the evening. Maya stood on the sidewalk, clutching the check, watching until the last taillight disappeared around the corner. Then she pulled out her phone and called Dr. Chen. I'll have the deposit tomorrow, she said when the doctor answered. Monday morning. We'll take the surgical slot. The spring sunshine was warm on Maya's face as she sat on the park bench, watching Lily chase butterflies through the new grass. Her daughter's laughter rang out clear and bright, a sound Maya had been terrified she'd never hear again. The surgery had been successful. More than successful, Dr. Rodriguez had called Lily's recovery remarkable. The repaired valve was working perfectly. The swelling was gone. The blue tinge had faded from Lily's lips and fingertips, replaced by healthy pink. She could run now, could play, could dance and sing, and be the rambunctious 5-year-old she was meant to be. Maya had quit the classy spoon, obviously, but she'd found something better. A job at a small nonprofit that helped families navigate medical debt. The pay was lower, but the hours were flexible, and her boss actually valued things like compassion and human decency. Strange concepts, after working for Todd. She'd heard through Raymond that the classy spoon was struggling. Turned out that treating your employees like garbage and your customers with contempt wasn't a great business model. Several bikers from the Asphalt Kings had left scathing online reviews about Todd's behavior. The health department had also conducted a surprise inspection, anonymous tip, apparently, and found enough violations to warrant a temporary closure. The restaurant was still open, but Todd had been demoted. Karma was a beautiful thing. Mama, look. Lily came running over, her purple dress, the one Maya had bought to celebrate her recovery, swirling around her legs. I almost caught one. Almost counts, Maya said, pulling her daughter onto her lap. You'll get one next time. Lily leaned against her, warm and solid and alive. Tell me the story again. About the angel with the muddy boots. Maya smiled. She'd told this story at least 100 times in the past 3 months, and Lily never tired of it. Well, one day, when Mama was working at a restaurant, a very special man came in from the rain. She was midway through the tale, at the part where Grizzly stood up to Todd, when she heard it. That familiar rumble, deep and powerful, growing louder. Maya's head whipped around. A massive motorcycle was pulling into the parking lot, its chrome gleaming in the sunshine. And on it, looking exactly the same as he had 3 months ago, was Grizzly. He killed the engine and dismounted, and Maya noticed his boots were clean this time. Well, mostly clean. There was always some dirt on those work boots. But no red cemetery clay. Not today. Lily scrambled off Maya's lap. Is that him? Is that the angel? Yes, baby. That's him. Grizzly approached slowly, and Maya could see he looked better. Still weathered, still scarred, still massive and bearded and intimidating. But there was something lighter in his expression, something less burdened in the way he carried himself. Heard there was a little girl in this park who likes butterflies, he said, his gravelly voice warm with amusement. Lily, who had been taught not to talk to strangers, but had also been told extensive stories about this particular stranger, didn't hesitate. She ran straight to Grizzly and wrapped her small arms around his legs, the only part of him she could reach. You saved me, she said, her voice muffled against his jeans. Mama says you're an angel. Grizzly looked stunned. He glanced at Maya, those pale blue eyes suddenly bright with moisture, then slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might break, he knelt down to Lily's level. Not an angel, he said softly. Just someone who knew another little girl who liked butterflies, and who wanted to make sure you got to keep chasing them. Emily, Lily said solemnly. Mama told me about Emily. I'm sorry she died. For a moment, Grizzly couldn't speak. He just nodded, his jaw working. Then Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out something small and purple, a paper butterfly she'd made in kindergarten, carefully folded and colored. This is for Emily. Can you put it at her grave? Mama says that's where you visit her. Grizzly took the paper butterfly with trembling hands. I'll put it there tomorrow, he managed. I promise. Lily beamed, then spotted another butterfly in the grass and took off running. Grizzly stood, the paper butterfly carefully tucked in his shirt pocket. Maya approached, and without thinking about it, she hugged him. Or tried to. Her arms barely made it around his massive torso. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For the money, for the lawyers, for showing me that there are still good people in the world. Thank you, Grizzly replied. For showing me that grief doesn't have to be the end. That there's still room for kindness. For hope. He pulled back, looked at her seriously. How's she doing? Really? Perfect. Clean bill of health. Dr. Rodriguez says she'll need checkups every 6 months, but he expects her to live a completely normal life. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She gets to grow up. Because of you, she gets to grow up. Because of both of us, Grizzly corrected. I had the money. You had the courage to stand up for a stranger. They stood together in the sunshine, watching Lily chase butterflies, and Maya thought about how one decision, one moment of choosing kindness over self-preservation, had changed everything. You know, Grizzly said after a while, Joanne's been on my case about doing more. About using the money I have left to help people. I've been thinking about starting a foundation. For families dealing with pediatric illness. Medical debt assistance, that kind of thing. That's a wonderful idea. Would you help me? You know the system now, know what families need. And I trust you. He scratched his beard. Wouldn't be a full-time thing. Just, when you have time. When you want to. Maya thought about it for maybe 2 seconds. Yes. Absolutely yes. Good. Grizzly smiled, a real smile this time. One that reached his eyes and softened all the hard lines of his face. We'll call it the Emily Lily Fund. 2 little girls who loved purple and butterflies. Lily came running back over, breathless and happy. Mr. Grizzly, will you come play with us? We're going to have a picnic. Grizzly looked at Maya, eyebrows raised. She nodded. I'd love to, he said. So they spread out the blanket Maya had brought, and shared sandwiches and juice boxes, and watched the butterflies dance through the spring air. And if anyone passing by thought it was strange, a tiny girl in a purple dress, a single mother, and a massive, bearded biker having a picnic together, well, they didn't understand. They didn't understand about muddy boots and sacred earth. About kindness given when it cost you everything. About how sometimes angels wear leather instead of wings. About how grief can transform into grace if you let it. About how a single moment of seeing someone, really seeing them, past the mud and the boots and the assumptions, can save more than one life. As the afternoon faded into evening and Lily started to yawn, Grizzly stood to leave. He mounted his bike, but paused before starting the engine. Emily would have loved her, he said, nodding toward Lily, who was now half asleep in Maya's arms. Emily would have loved you too, Maya replied. She does love you, wherever she is. Grizzly nodded, started the engine. That familiar rumble filled the air. See you around, Maya Sullivan. Keep chasing those butterflies. See you around, Elias Vance. Keep making miracles. He rode away into the sunset. Literally rode away into the sunset, the golden light gleaming off his chrome and leather. Maya watched until he disappeared, then looked down at her sleeping daughter. In Lily's small hand was a purple butterfly, one she'd finally managed to catch, plastic, from the toy store, purchased by Maya with money that came from a gift left under a plate in a restaurant where kindness had been a revolutionary act. She carried Lily to the car, buckled her in, and drove home. And if she looked in the rearview mirror and saw muddy boot prints on her heart, prints that would never wash clean, that she'd never want to wash clean, well, that was okay. Some mud was sacred. Some kindness was rare. Some miracles wore size 13 work boots and rode motorcycles through the rain. And some little girls got to grow up and chase butterflies because one woman refused to throw a stranger out into the storm.